And I guess we should all read the minutes that Sean sent in a separate PDF, the August minutes.
I read them 10 minutes ago.
Okay. Did everyone read the minutes?
Yes.
Okay, I vote to approve them.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
So has anyone talked to any of their grantees?
I can say that my photographer, Helena, has bowed out. It's just times have changed, things have changed. So she's apologizes, feels like she took on something a little bit too larger than she could handle, and she apologizes, and so those funds are kicking back to us. We're
Okay.
not going out to her.
Sure. And on that note, I believe we got $13,800 to grant this year for 2022. So right now we're in the process of doing the financial report. Part of it I have to wait on the auditor's office. And we will see how much we're able to grant for 2022 in actuality, because not only will we have the 13.8, but we will obviously have Helena's grant and some other grants. So we should be granting a good chunk of change. I would guess around $16,000 or $17,000. Because that was a significant grant. So it's interesting. Has anyone else talked to any of their
No,
grant?
I can't. I think I already mentioned this. I talked to Matt and I talked to Paul, and they both had executed their events. I didn't see them in person, but they said they went well. And Kate O'Connor is doing hers on October 2nd, which is this Saturday at Park Hill Orchard.
Mm-hmm.
So they relocated from Arcadia. So I guess that wasn't working.
I'm just curious, do you know why they relocated, Peter?
No, Dan didn't.
It doesn't really matter. I was just curious.
I think maybe when they talked to Arcadia didn't know, and then Arcadia opened up because they're doing that they did that folk festival.
Right.
But I think by then maybe they'd already committed to
Sure.
Parkville.
Sure. The uncertainty is definitely a thing.
Yeah.
And the Orchard has a good amount of foot traffic this time of year because of their Arts in the Orchard scenario. So it's not a bad pairing. You know, there's an arts audience there. So you don't have to do the marketing and all the announcing that you're there, as opposed to Arcadia.
Yeah, I think that's a good place for them to do it. And they did a show at the Easthampton Library, and it wasn't entirely their environmental stuff, but they're kind of carrying the work that we're funding on in a lot of their other gigs too. So it's not just the one event that we fund them for. They've been
Oh, that's good.
going around with it.
That's great. Has anyone else talked to their grantees?
Mine were spring ones, so they're done.
Great. I did pop into Mill Pond Live, by the way, for their both concerts that they produced, and they were terrific. I'm sure some of you were there, but they always do a great job. I did notice that there were many less people than in previous years, but I think that was on purpose. And they were looking not to be overwhelmed, and they had a certain capacity limit that they were executing.
Mm.
Did anyone else go? Casey, were you there?
No, I wasn't there. I heard it went well from Tracy Eller, but I know I wasn't there. And I know that the Spot Lot did pretty well this weekend. At least on Saturday, there was a pretty good crowd as I was coming back from the farm. So I couldn't say what the numbers were, but it definitely seemed like people were out and about for that event.
Okay. But P.S., has Tracy Eller talked to you at all about her project? Are you still her liaison?
I'm looking at the thing right now. No, Chris is taken on.
Okay, because you were that last year. I get confused sometimes. Okay.
But I did see her and didn't talk to her about it. She's a procrastinator. Or busy.
We move along.
Sure.
Okay, so let's move along. So we're going to have a significant amount of money to grant this year. I have been out of town a lot, and the grant workshop is just not something I was willing to host. It just didn't happen. I was just in Arizona, and I'm now in New York, and it's going to, it's just the year is kind of off.
Yeah.
But we have $13,800 from the state to grant. We'll have some rollover grants funding that did not get used in 2021. And so we have ideas for a council program. We did a mural for 2021. And we talked about this last time, but I had some other ideas in the meantime that I thought might be interesting just to share quickly with the group so you could think about them. And I think they're things that are for us might be actually fairly straightforward. I
can't hear you talking, Rachel. You might have muted yourself.
Did we lose her altogether?
Yeah, we could put together a small series of concerts with local bands and ask Laudable if they'd like to be the producers, and then Laudable would get paid and the bands would get paid. And actually, it's not that much money in the scheme of things. And we'd still have money to do a mural. And it's just an idea. They are.
Rachel, could you start over because we missed the first part of what you're saying?
Yeah, cut out for us.
I'm sorry. Let me try and move to a different part of my apartment.
We hear you now. We don't hear you now.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No.
Okay, because I couldn't hear anybody. I apologize. I don't have the best reception in New York City. It gets tough. So so River Valley Co-op that just opened recently in Easthampton has hosted small music concerts that Laudable Productions has facilitated with their production skills. And I thought it might be nice if we wanted to host a small series of concerts at River Valley Market that Laudable Productions could produce because they have the equipment. And
Who is Laudable Productions?
they do Mill Pond Live.
Okay, so it's okay.
It's Kyle and Cassandra.
Yeah, I know both of them.
Right. So it was just an idea because it doesn't actually take a large amount of funds to do that. And we could also still do outdoor public art. And I haven't approached either of the entities.
All right, while she cuts out, I'll give my perspective on this. I like that as a potential element, whether or not it's a fallback or whatnot. They are definitely two good sources that do put on good events. So it's a viable, it's a good thing. I'm not a crazy fan about the location, but if that's part of the marketing concept that pays for it, then that's what it is.
Do they do it in the? Did they
They
do it
do
in
have
there?
the nice outdoor bench now that I think about it, the patio. So it could be nice.
Is that where they do shows, or do they do them inside?
I thought it was the parking lot somehow.
Yeah, it's
I'm not sure.
outside.
Outside somewhere.
Outside, so we could. I haven't even approached them. It was just an idea rattling around my head, just
Yeah.
because for next summer or the fall, just
It's all built and ready to go. That's the
Right.
the money's already there the money would go towards the entertainers because the infrastructure's already there.
Yeah.
And it would really be us doing it, and we could partner with Laudable and the co-op, and it's nice.
I like that idea.
Oh, good. So I just figured I'd toss it to see if anyone was even interested.
I mean, I'm not saying this out of self-interest, but I know just a million musicians who we could think about.
That or something that's along that vein too. I think that if we just have a little bit of open mind and we talk about it every month and sort of steer towards the direction that gives people enough time to be able to execute it. Because I think that's a fabulous idea. And I think there could be 2 or 3 other ones that we come across if we sort of break down little kind of budget concepts. Or the other thing is we might get good submissions that we might be able to take over in a sense if they're not the ones that seem that they can execute it. I think we just have an open mind about it.
Sure, or we can ask Laudable to present the grant. It can go many ways. It's something we can cultivate.
I do like the idea of the mural was basically handled, by you and the committee. That actually got a lot of bang for the buck. And so as far as a project goes, I just do like the idea of us having some control and dictating, what it is. Obviously it means work on our part. So yeah, partnering with people and having control of it, I think is a nice luxury for us to have this year.
Can we review? I'm trying to remember if we voted on the design. Did we?
No.
Because it would be nice to have. I mean, it would be great if you had like 4 people who want to do murals and we vote on the best one or something.
No,
that would be ideal. We didn't even see the. I mean, they showed us a.
Peter, with that, you have to put out a call to artists. You have to go through a whole
Right.
processing thing, which is a ton of work. As opposed to what was nice about this was it was a one-off relationship between the committee and the artist.
Right.
There was no, and that's why it was able to get done was because the time commitment and the affordability of it. The donation.
Okay, I'm not against the thing itself. I'm just. It would be nice to have some input on the design.
Also, the building owner ultimately actually has to have the input on the design and be okay with it on their
Right.
build.
Right.
Peter's not wrong. Peter's not wrong.
No, I understand what you're saying. What we said was as long as it's high quality,
Right.
we'll not vote against it.
I'm just saying that, I know everybody likes that mural. I don't. I would like to have said it's too dark or something. I don't know. I didn't have a say. It's nice to have a say.
At the end of the day, it's the artist's work, and the artist and the building owner need to be in agreement. And what we as a committee stated was if it's not of the quality that we would expect from a grant application, we would deny it. That would be the vote. We don't judge if we like the color
Content.
choices. The content is not for us to scrutinize. If we get a lot of mural submissions that we have nothing to do with, we could potentially look at some of the content, but it's up to the building owners and the artists to have the design. For us, it's more of a quality assessment. Is it up to the quality of what we want to give money to, where we feel comfortable giving?
She's gone again. While there's a break in the action, I would like to go back to the concert idea, and I think that if we do that with River Valley Co-op, it might be nice to have some younger concert people type. Like, I don't know if there's any way we could throw it out to encourage some high school bands or something who may not have an opportunity or venues to get into other places.
Sure, and that's a great comment. And at this stage, that's great. I love that input. And what I'm really looking at is, are we interested in a group at this sort of event? And when it comes down to the content of the event, I think that those specifics are more for the later idea. This was just for feelers of and I will actually say that to Cassandra and Kyle, because they'll be interested in that.
Right.
that will be of interest to them. They are interested in those sorts of phenomenon. And so I think that's terrific. Thank you.
I think it's a great idea, but
inclusion of the community to it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I would love it if they could get younger people to come out to concerts like that. Younger people come out to loud shows and dance parties, but well, it depends on what we talk about. But just, I've been to a million shows. It's all old people. That's the market for a lot of like small performances.
Are you calling me old?
Oh, yeah, I am, and I'm old enough to be your grandfather. So.
All right. Well, this is exciting because I think it's great to put those feelers out and get people thinking about stuff that we could potentially do so that when the time comes, we have a more of an understanding and an outline of what we're looking for. Thank you. And if you have any ideas that you'd like to throw at the group to wrap our heads around and see if it's something we're interested in and or find valuable, I encourage you to. The other thing you can still be doing at this point in the granting cycle is our grant round is currently open until October 15th. And now is a good time to tell businesses, building owners, say, hey, we have grant applications online. And if you want a mural on your wall, if you know an artist you want to work with, submit an application. If you want to host a concert, submit an application. If you're an artist that wants to have a show and you know a venue that you want to have it at, submit an application. Encourage people to submit applications that will combine a local business and an artist in some fashion, and where they are community partners. It's a great thing. Sometimes people don't realize they can just apply. The worst that happens is they say no. But also if they have questions, they can ask. And we as a committee are able to actually help them with the application. That is not against the rules. It is encouraged to help people fill out these applications to have a successful granting opportunity.
Can I ask a question kind of just only because last Saturday I went to the Florence Fall Festival thing, and it was a lot of fun, and it made me wonder what happened to the Easthampton Cottage Street. You know what I'm talking about? I can't remember what it was called.
Cultural Council or Chaos.
Also chaos.
Cultural Chaos. Yeah.
COVID happened.
Is that so? But it didn't happen. It didn't stop Florence, but it stopped us, right?
Because COVID was busy at a time that they usually have it. They usually have it in June. So we were totally closed down last year. And this year we weren't sure where reopening was. And it takes like several months to do it.
Right,
so,
I know. So are they planning on getting it going, I guess, who knows, next year?
I don't know.
I would imagine.
I would.
I don't know either, but the way it sounded when they announced that it was not happening again this year, this is like March, April. I mean, they hadn't got the vaccinations through the seniors.
Right.
Yeah.
And India happened and Delta a few weeks later. So it's very different from things that were happening towards the summer and the end of the summer.
I would love to help that happen again if there's something we can do, because I love that. And I think those towns, it just is crazy that Northampton doesn't do something similar. They don't.
Florence is Northampton.
Well, they didn't do anything. It was Florence. They didn't do a pride parade. They didn't do the winter stroll. They're not doing anything. They're dead.
Same thing with the Pride Parade that we had with Cultural Chaos.
Yeah.
There just wasn't the time to do it. I mean, having worked on Pride before, they start planning it the day after the last one to get it together to do it. And, it was just such an unknown.
So, and that's Easthampton.
Yeah, that's ECA, and they're totally welcome to ask us for grant money for that event.
That's how it would work?
Yes, if they asked put in a grant for any sort of part of Cultural Chaos, we would more than likely say yes, because we know it's a winner right down the alley of.
They can apply for a grant from us.
They should.
Right. Okay.
Well, you should encourage Pascalinda. So not only that, but what has happened historically.
I don't see her. I don't, I mean.
Okay, so what historically, some performers at Cultural Chaos have applied for grants to pay for their performances.
Mhm.
where EPA wouldn't have to pay for them. We can fund a band, we can fund, you know.
If Winterfest is happening, we can fund some things for Winterfest. We could fund some things if the book festival is happening.
Right, they
We could
just have
fund
to
some things
apply.
involved with that. I don't know, haven't heard where any of these things stand.
So they used to apply. Winterfest used to apply to us for a grant for their ice harvesting exhibition that they did on the pond.
Alright.
So what she's saying is basically we have to get word out to the public arts and anybody to put in a grant application. You know what I mean? It's like, if those are the things we know we like and we know this is successful to the city, we just have to email, text, or get word out to, you know, whatever organization, even if it's the Luthiers, the bar. You know, Peter, if you go to the bar, say to Steve, ask for grant money. Make it.
I'm going to talk to them tomorrow night. I'm going to be there.
But you know what I mean? He can say, let's do a Friday night festival or
Right.
some kind of concept. And we could say no in the future. But if he just says, I want to use it to pay for bands for that night, as opposed to
Right.
passing the house, the hat.
Right.
They never
But also outside. Don't forget we're trying to focus on public outside art too.
They have a courtyard. I don't know if they're using it.
I don't think they are, but
So then you know who would actually be good to talk to is Mr. LaValle. What's his bar?
Brass Cat.
Yes, Brass Cat for their outdoor scene might be actually maybe get in touch. I vaguely know him. Say, hey, why don't you host a small music afternoon so you're not bugging the neighbors?
I will get that word to him this week.
I think that might be terrific, don't you think?
Sure. Yeah.
Like on a Sunday afternoon. If
The
you did-
Mission Cantina could do something. You know, there's this place called Galaxy. I hear they have a nice patio.
Yeah, but we'd like to come there and bust that up if it's too noisy. We gotta keep it. It's got to be in an afternoon place that has like afternoon stuff.
Yeah, we don't want the cops called on us again, right, Rachel?
No, that's right. But so I'm thinking if they're open in the afternoon, Galaxy's really a more of an evening. I think Brass Cat opens earlier.
If somebody approaches me and says, I want to do it, I personally am not going to ask for a grant from this committee for that. I may ask for
Well,
a
you know
grant.
what, Casey? If there were some bands and you wanted to host, an afternoon of music,
Easy.
and not during regular, nighttime hours,
Easy.
maybe think about it.
It's already bought and paid for. I got all seats and everything. It's
Right. So, and the bands can get paid you have so let's talk about some people that you want to see.
Drag queen brunch outside
Right.
again.
All of it.
It was packed at Solange 2 Sundays ago. We didn't go to the brunch, but they were up there hooting and hollering, having a good time.
Right. But someone organizes that. That's
Sure.
a well-organized event. It takes a lot. So when I say a few bands, to me, that's very much manageable. It's a very specific thing that is manageable. So just these are some ideas for business owners, also for murals, for sculpture, just if they have an artist in mind, to talk to them. That's where we're at.
It's up to us to promote this thing. It doesn't.
Also, they can get the application in by the 15th, and then if they still need help if some of the information is unclear, we're actually able to clarify that as long as they get the application in by the 15th.
I was going to ask, what's the deadlines in the schedule this year?
October
Or
15th.
probably,
Every year, besides last year, which was not typical, it opens.
it was my first one. So
Sure, and last year was so different. So September 1st it opened, and it closes October 15th at midnight. And if that is a Sunday, it then rolls to the Monday. But it is October 15th this year. And like I said, even if they submit it and it still needs clarity, as long as it's submitted by the deadline, the clarity can be sought afterwards if we needed more information, or they can now come to us. We have that ability to flesh that stuff out with them. We like to encourage people to do well. We'd like them to get grants. We're not that We're not like cutthroat where you have, if we can flesh it out with them, we should.
So, Rachel, can I ask a follow-up to that one? So the 15th is the deadline, which is a Friday. When is our next meeting will we be reviewing those applications, or are we just going to be looking at rough drafts and being fine with them that someone can then take the next 3-4 weeks to tidy them up?
Good question. So as a group, we can decide to look at them before our voting meeting if we'd like to. Historically, we have not really done that. I've been the only one who takes a look. And I have occasionally, if I see something that's glaring, I will ask for other stuff. But I usually try to make it equitable. If we as a group would like to take a look, and we all will have access to the back end of the granting system that MCC uses, we can.
If she was texting, we could at least read what she's saying.
Closed captions.
Yeah, exactly.
I need captions. So what did you say, Casey? Did you not hear me?
We did not hear you.
No, we didn't hear you.
We got as far as granting system.
Okay, so if we decide to, as a group, take a look at the back end after the 15th, we can decide to take a look. And if we see questions that we have that are glaring to us, that if they were fleshed out might make it a viable grant, we can approach the grantees prior to our voting meeting.
Our voting meeting is when?
It looks like the 19th would be our next monthly meeting, which only gives us 4 days after the deadline. And then the 23rd of November would be the other Tuesday. Maybe it would be the 16th of November.
Right.
Is that right before Thanksgiving?
Right. But we can decide whenever we'd like, really, before the end of the year.
Okay.
So do you think you want to go after the 15th? I can take a quick peek and share them with we all can look.
I would encourage us all to look.
Yes, I agree.
And so give us like a week or two to get in there and look once it's closed.
Sure. And you all should have the credentials to log in. You should have all received an email from Mass Cultural Council regarding the granting system a while back. And if you have issue with that, let me know and I will tell you the date the email came in. I'll take a look through my emails and see if I can find that. So moving on to new members, I put that in there because, wow, we would love to. We have capacity for 9 people. We have 7 in the group right now. If you can think of anyone that might like to be active in this group, let them know we have an open grant round now. It's a great time to check us out. It's more interesting because they can come on in the beginning of the cycle and see where it's all going. Show them the mural we did this year and tell them we're looking to host more public art as a group and be active in that way if it's something they're interested in. We also need a treasurer. That is all I have to say about that. So moving on. So any new business? Anyone? Okay, so where we're at is we're looking to encourage people to write grants, even if they don't, have more questions. We encourage them to submit by October 15th, and if it's plausible and it makes sense, we can flesh some of that out. They just have to get it in by that deadline.
Rachel, I've got one question.
Sure.
Do we still have this kind of policy that we're just contributing small amounts, which sort of give our support to grantees, which clearly have to have income from a number of sources and basically be happening anyway? Because that's kind of what they felt like again. Last last year was weird, and it was my first one, admitted. But given that, that was kind of the impression I got. So sort of. Anyway, that's my question.
I understand. So yes, we can't be the sole funders usually. I have a feeling this year we'll have more money to give, but so support can come in a lot of ways. It doesn't necessarily need to be monetary. In-kind donations also we look at as a contribution and someone working with someone. So like any kind of in-kind from any business or anything we look at as an additional funder, if that's helpful at all.
Thanks.
And also, I mean, really, people will ask for more money than we will give. So I encourage people to go to the high end. If you're talking to potential applicants, they should go higher in what their budget is, not try to lowball everything. That results probably in a more equitable grant. You know, as long as it makes sense in the budget, but they should be looking at the max, like how much would be the maximum price for the stuff I'm buying, not the lowest. Do you see what I'm saying? They should come in at the highest amount that might happen for them.
Yeah, so if you're doing something, especially if you're not already established and in the swing of things here, what was I going to say? Yeah, this is one source among many.
Sure.
And it also means that if you have an idea, you've got to go through the whole, I mean, the nonprofit and therefore the cultural thing, that you've got to do a million different applications.
I think, Louise, what you have to look at too is there were a lot of different swings on things. Like people who were, playing music, they got maybe a decent hourly wage for their performance. Say it was a 2-hour performance and we gave them $300, but it doesn't count any of the practice time or whatnot. Versus, Helena, we were talking about giving $800 to do photographs and interviews, and that was a pretty substantial amount of money for the end result of the product. So I think there were different swings, and yes, it'll never be 100% funded, but that's like any project. It's got to be an art project that merits investment from the artists too. So, I mean, I think it's just a general understanding about how this committee works.
Well, and as Rachel was saying, part of the having resources put towards this that don't come from us is that for an artist needs to have a place to have the art hang. And so if they're working with a park to have their sculptures placed, then having that park say their space is okay, that's a resource. It's an in-kind contribution.
Right. And
so if you want to coordinate, like you want to use your front yard, and you've coordinated with your front yard is the location of this art. I mean, you've spoken to, if you're the landlord, you've spoken to the landlord and you're having this sculpture out in your front yard for people to come see. That could be considered an in-kind donation.
Okay.
Also, any free publicity they get is considered in-kind donation. There are many ways to show that you have other funding sources.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Is there anything else that anyone would like to bring up? All right. Well, I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
I vote aye.
So do we not have a next meeting date planned?
So that would be our October meeting, and maybe it's when we've looked at the rough drafts after the 15th.
Do we want to have a meeting then after the 15th to say that we've all looked at it and if there's any that we want to pursue for additional questions?
Yeah, let me take a look at the calendar.
The
Can
19th.
we do that the 4th, not the 3rd Tuesday, so that we had like a bit over a week to look at them rather than 3 or 4 days?
think everyone's looking at their calendar, Louise. Just
I'm not. I'm just talking off the top of my head.
yeah.
I will say the 19th, I would have to do from Las Vegas.
On October 26th?
26th, I will be home.
Okay, I'm sorry, I cut out. So how's the 26th for people? That's the fourth Tuesday.
That looks good for me. Good for Peter.
Okay, so
Louise?
Yeah, at least now, yeah.
so I will actually reserve, even if we don't use it, I'll reserve this now. I'll try and get it now because we ran into some issues this week. Sorry about that because another committee decided to have it. So I'm going to actually email her now for potentially 6:30 on Tuesday, the 26th. Hopefully we get some applications. Really just encourage people to apply no matter what. The worst that happens is they say no. It's not, you know, it's better to apply and get the application in, and if there needs to be more information, to go back and do it than to not apply if they have a viable idea. Is there anyone else before we adjourn? All right, before I cut out on you again, I'm going to move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
That's
All right. Thank you.
All right, see you guys.
Bye, guys.